In this tutorial, we're going to do one small but very important restructuring of our code. The reason why we're doing this probably won't make sense until we add some zombies and have them attack later, but I'll try to explain what I'm doing as we go along. Now, to begin with, we don't need to mess around with GameObject or particle or player. We're just going to restructure AppMain. And the basic idea is that we're going to create a secondary class that's going to hold the state of the game, and that's going to be necessary when we get into artificial intelligence for the zombies. So to begin with, what I'll do is come up here above AppMain and create another class. So I'll say public class, and we'll call it something like main game. And on the inside of this, we're going to structure it almost identical to how AppMain is structured. So what we'll do is we'll put in a public void initialize, and it's going to take in a graphics context that we'll just call graphics. Also, if you look down here inside of AppMain, there is an update and a render. So we'll do a similar kind of thing here. We'll say public void update, and I believe that needs to take in a gamepad data. Gamepad data. All right, and we'll do the same thing here, public void render. Okay, now the basic idea is that we're going to move all of this stuff that you see in AppMain and put it up here inside of our main game class. And again, the main game is going to be the one that knows the state of all of the objects, where the player is, where the particle systems are, where the zombies are, and so on. So what I'll do is I'll grab these three attributes here of AppMain and take them outside of here and put them into main game. And I'll clean up some of this white space here real quick. And we no longer need to create these as static variables, so I can remove those guys. Public sprite, yeah, so static, get rid of that one, and we'll do the same thing here. Okay, good. So if we drop down, then inside of initialize, you can see that we have this graphics gets a new graphics context, but these statements right here, I'm going to cut out of there, and I'll paste them inside of initialize. And notice that we were kind of clever here. It was called graphics down here inside of initialize, and then we also called it graphics here as a variable, or as the parameter name. So we'll keep going. Here inside of update, inside of AppMain, the only thing that we do is update the hero. So we'll move that code there. And then finally, inside of render, we got these two statements, and I will paste them here inside of the main game. And we'll do a little bit of cleanup here on our AppMain. Now, right now our AppMain doesn't really do anything. We've kind of taken it back to the original state that it was in. But now what we're going to do is, instead of having nothing happen, we'll call the events that are going up here inside of main game. So essentially what's going to happen is, as the AppMain initializes, we're going to call the initialize of the main game. As AppMain's update is called, then we'll call main game's update, and so on. So the only tricky part about this is right here inside of AppMain, I'm going to say public static main game, and for now we'll just call it main game, gets a new main game. Now that's kind of a strange way to initialize things, but it is a static variable, and we'll have a discussion about what static means a little bit later on. Okay, so now inside of main, you can see that initialize is called down here. So what I'll do is to say main game dot initialize and pass it the graphics context that was created in the line above here in line 68. Okay, so you can see that it's just going to go up here and it's going to do all the same stuff that we did previously. Same kind of thing goes on here in update. So what I could do is say main game dot update and pass it the gamepad data. And again, that's going to call this update every single frame. And then we drop down here inside of AppMain's render. I could say main game dot render. So essentially what's going to go on here is, every time AppMain is supposed to do something, it's going to call this main game here, and then the main game is going to do something. So we've just restructured the code. Now visually what's going to happen, it's not going to be any different. You can see that I just recompiled the code and I'm running it. I can still move the character around and I can still use my flamethrower and whatnot. But it is an important structure, especially when we get into artificial intelligence, like I said. So in the next tutorial, we're going to be talking about adding zombies, and I think this concept of having a main game state class is going to make sense then.